Hi, my name is Stu Waters. I am the Director of Lead Gen at Greenbits. Part of my job here at Greenbits is to help educate the industry by collecting the stories that we have of our dispensary owners' successes that use our platform and using that information to educate the industry to make the industry better as a whole. One of the ways we do that here is to produce a quarterly benchmark report, pulling data from millions of transactions that we help process every day, and describing trends and habits that we see in that data back to the industry, so people can then compare their own data and understand where they fit in the marketplace. To me, Greenbits is a group of tech and cannabis fans who really come together to focus on one area. The idea that we believe in is that regulated retail should be smarter and easier. And because of that, we've developed a retail solution that's purpose-built for cannabis. I feel like we've been in the center of cannabis retail since nearly the beginning, which has allowed us to partner with nearly a third of the cannabis space. And I think this is very much due to the fact that we continue to listen to the wants and needs of our customers, all while keeping an eye on the constantly evolving government regulations. The benchmark report is a report we put out at the beginning of every quarter. It pulls all the transaction data from the Greenbits point of sale and aggregates it down to the state level. But we do this because all of cannabis, data is only relevant up to the state border. Data changes so much as you cross borders that we want to really show people as local as we can how they stack up against their market. And the data that we show in this report are things like total transaction volumes or transaction sizes, items per transaction. You'll see things like discount averages as well as top strains and top sales days for the quarter. And what many people use this report as is a way of comparing their own individual dispensary data to the industry as a whole, and using that as a tool that they can then not only compare themselves to see where they sit in the marketplace, but also look for areas of competitive advantage, recognizing that maybe there's an opportunity to focus on a strain that less people are interested in, focusing on discounting days with lower foot traffic and understanding where a good discount level is. Using this essentially as a benchmark will allow you to then find those areas of opportunity and to grow your business. Greenbits was founded because there was a gap in the cannabis industry. Every state where cannabis is legal, there is also some version of a mandatory state traceability system. And what that means is that cannabis, or the state wants to know where the cannabis is, from literally where it's grown to where it's being processed to where customers, both medical and recreational consumers, are purchasing it. And what that can create is actually just mountains and mountains of data. We process millions and millions of transactions. And what at Greenbits we want to avoid is that data becoming a burden on our customers. Our goal is to transition that to really becoming one of their biggest assets. So it's in Greenbits' DNA to help our cannabis retailer partners collect, process, and make sense of that data. So we work hard to make that data make sense, and then we not only share that with our customers, but we also create these reports that then help educate the industry, because we want to be good partners to the industry as a whole. So I think a look back on 2020 would be impossible without looking at it through the lens of COVID-19. There wasn't an industry that went unaffected by coronavirus, and cannabis is no different. Our retailers were impacted substantially, but what's interesting about cannabis is I would say, scrappiness of the industry, and their response was in near equal match to the challenges that faced the industry. So it really began in the middle of March, where some uncertainty about the uncertainty whether dispensaries would remain open, and we started to see a climb, and a pretty substantial climb in a couple of the key metrics we follow, particularly number of items per transaction and the value of the total transactions. This matches up with the sense of uncertainty around whether the dispensaries were going to remain open and consumers starting to stockpile product. What happened was the dispensaries did run into challenges. There was unclarity on whether dispensaries were allowed to remain open, and that resulted in a pretty substantial drop in number of transactions mid-March and into early April. But dispensary owners are, as I said, they're a wily bunch, and they responded in equal measure to the challenge by really focusing on delivery and contactless purchase options. And by transitioning and pivoting towards this alternative retail experience, what we saw was a healthy and steady rise all the way in through the middle of summer and up towards the beginning of fall. And we've seen now 2020 being one of the busiest years in cannabis. 2020 versus 2019, we saw a 40% increase in total sales by shop, average sales by shop. And even just in 2020, through what are particularly uncertain times, there was a from January 1 through the end of the third quarter, we saw 32% growth in the industry. So it's heartening to see that the cannabis space has reacted and risen to the challenge of COVID-19. Discounts in the cannabis industry are ubiquitous. Like most retail, I think consumers want to find a deal. But what's been clear for us in the data is that year over year, the averages for discounts continue to rise. This has really been the standard playbook as we look at this data since we started back in 2017, collecting the data. And that is really how it's been until just this last quarter. We were interested to see that in Q3 of 2020, it was the first quarter of flattening out and actually decline in discount averages that we had seen in the data ever. And I, for one, have been anticipating this ceiling for a while now. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. So back in 2019 or 17 rather, dispensaries were averaging around 9% for discounts across the board. That continued to climb up to 2020, beginning of 2020, until it reached about 12% as an average discount rate for every transaction. But as we got into Q3, we saw that drop down to around 11.5%. And what we assume is as the industry matures, there starts to be some balancing of discounts and some solidification of loyalty amongst consumers. So discounts become a little less of a lever that's available to retailers to drive people towards their store. But again, this could just possibly be the beginning of something, or it could be a fluke quarter. So we're going to keep our eyes on that. One other thing to note is discounts are highly regional. East Coast tend to have the highest discounts. States like Michigan and Oklahoma join them as being high on the list of high discounting states. While West Coast tend to keep it on the lower end when it comes to discounts and have lower averages. So states like Alaska Montana, California, even Nevada, surprisingly have pretty low discounts on average. So our benchmark report comes out quarterly, so you can always find that at greenbits.com/resources. You'll find the most recent as well as the archive list of all the previous quarters reports. And make sure to follow Greenbits on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, because we are always producing snapshot reports and weekly updates on sales data as well as strain data and top sales days, so you can continue to grow your business. Thanks.